Well, there they are. Now, in all seriousness, of course, there's big uncertainty over the future of Warner Brothers and DC, with it looking likely that Paramount or Netflix will be the ones to acquire them. Now, whether it's Paramount or Netflix is quite unsure yet. It seems Netflix will go through a lot more regulation. However, it seems like they are the preferred buyer from Warner Brothers' side. And so I'd like to talk about like which one I think would be better. Now, I still think both are quite bad. Now, a lot of people have mentioned Universal being their ideal buyer. To be honest, I don't know enough about Universal, because with DC, like, my main focus here is DC, which, you know, is physical media, video games, films. It is like everything. So whilst I know Universal, you know, obviously do pretty well in terms of movies, I'm not so sure about the rest of it. And so let's discuss Paramount and Netflix. Now, many people have brought up like many valid reasons why either Netflix or Paramount shouldn't get Warner Brothers. Netflix will most likely impact the theatrical releases of Warner Brothers and therefore DC films sometime in the future, which is not good for cinema in general. And yeah, I agree that it's definitely a bad thing. It's definitely unhealthy for cinema, and I'm not a fan of it personally. But that being said, like, DC is not just movies. You know, DC is video games, DC is comics, DC is TV shows, and so it's also about, you have to consider Netflix's handling of them. Now, Netflix recently also said, I saw that like Netflix said that they didn't put too much value on WB Games as part of the deal, and I saw some people like saying that that was a bad thing. To be completely honest, I'm pretty sure they're just saying that so they can try and buy the company for cheaper. Because like, if they came out and said, oh yeah, Warner Brothers Games is actually really valuable, then they'd have to pay more money to buy the company. I'm pretty sure they're just saying that, you know, before they own it. Once they own it, I'm sure they'll. I mean, you know, Netflix hasn't really done much with games apart from just hosting games right now, so it's a bit unclear in that side of things. And then with Paramount, there's major concerns with the Ellisons and David Ellison and his political ties to the Trump administration. And I think, yeah, that is also incredibly concerning in terms of any political messaging that could then possibly leak into Warner Brothers media, and specifically DC media. Like I said, my focus is DC here, and I think if Ellison, you know, is seeking to acquire Warner Brothers and acquire DC to push political messaging, I just think that is just terrible in terms of the DC products. I don't think many DC fans, me included, really want that. And the DCU as is currently looking very promising, and if the Ellisons are coming in and wanting to change that, then it's not great future for the world of DC. And so essentially the choice between Netflix and Paramount is like one of the lesser evil. And for me, that is Netflix, and that is because I see Netflix as the better option in terms of the long-term health of the Warner Brothers and DC brand, and I'll tell you why. So if you look at the market evaluation of the companies, Paramount, Netflix, and Warner Brothers, Paramount is valued at £5.23 billion. I can't get bothered converting that to dollars right now. I'll probably put it on screen. Netflix, £301 billion, and Warner Brothers, £55.6 billion. So, first of all, Paramount is trying to acquire a company that is 11 times bigger in market value than itself, which is quite concerning because, you know, David Ellison's role is, I believe, head of Skydance and therefore head of Paramount. And so if Paramount's, like, let's say Paramount's share value is falling, which it has been over many years now. So let's say it is over a 12-month period. And so Ellison has pressure on him from the shareholders of Paramount. They're going to say, you know, we want short-term profits. We want the share value going up as quick as possible. Well, what's the easiest way to do that? Get some Warner Brothers films out, get some DC films out. So, for example, James Gunn has said he doesn't want to make a Batman film unless it's very, very good. But if the shareholders at Paramount are pressuring the Ellisons to increase the share value, which is a lot more likely than Netflix, because Netflix is the 25th highest valued company in the world, the odds of shareholder pressurization is a lot higher at Paramount than it is Netflix. And then David Ellison is going to say to James Gunn, you need to make that Batman movie. And James Gunn's going to go, I'm sorry, but I've not got a good enough script. But Ellison's going to go, I don't care. I need the profits. we need to up the share value or else I lose my job. And so go make that Batman movie. And so for the sake of quality control, because James Gunn is huge on quality control, he's already outlined like how, you know, strict he is over making sure these DCU projects are the best they can be. And for the sake of allowing that to happen and allowing the DCU to be the best thing it possibly can, I think Paramount would lead to a huge decline in quality control, because they are much more reliant on economic profits from the DC side of things. Whereas, like I said, Netflix, £301 billion market valuation, the 25th most valuable company in the world. And so, you know, if James Gunn says, listen, I'm sorry, Netflix, we got to wait another 2 years to make our Batman movie, script's not good enough, the odds that Netflix shareholders will be more tolerant and more patient with that is a lot higher than the odds of Paramount shareholders. And so that's why I think that Netflix, for the long-term sake of quality of the DC brand, you know, and I've been using the DCU and James Gunn as an analogy, but that applies across gaming, across comics, across everything. The room to breathe and the patience allowed, you know, afforded to DC will be so much more under Netflix than under Paramount. And so between Netflix and Paramount, I would much prefer Netflix. However, Netflix are going to have a hard time acquiring Warner Brothers in terms of the legislation. Paramount are going to have a hard time getting it off the shareholders. However, they have just offered an even higher bid than Netflix, so who knows? Honestly, Paramount is looking likely. I hope not. So if you enjoyed that breakdown, feel free to like and subscribe. Drop a like if you want Netflix to get it instead of Paramount, because same, me too. I just think economically and, you know, financially, Paramount would just be a disaster for Warner Brothers, but we'll have to wait and see.